This gives you practices, and not right away. Over time, you can practice for 10 years and not enter these states. Then something happens, and suddenly, it all sweeps you away. When I finally experienced that state, I spent a week after that event just gathering myself, in a daze, because it's one thing to say that everything is meaningless, and another thing to see that your entire long journey has no meaning at all. All your sketches, when you were suffocating yourself in various ways, all your practices, it was all a performance, it was all cartoons.
What is the most terrible mistake of a practitioner of energy and esoteric practices?
The most terrible mistake is the one that leads you to death. There can be no other options. And if we add the term practice here, there are certain pitfalls that not everyone, but some practitioners fall into. And I even know those whose lives were cut short by stepping on these rakes. I will now explain what this is. When a person is unable to open their consciousness and perceive the reality of the world's structure, they are highly motivated. They move forward, they practice, and they invest themselves in all of it. But after some time, when the practices yield results, when he finally achieves the ability to see how the world is structured, deep down, at its very essence, not just in terms of good here and evil there, all of these, no, this is the very essence of the causality of everything that exists. When the practitioner reaches causality with their consciousness and perception, they suddenly realize the fact that, first of all, nothing matters at all. Simply put, nothing matters. And the second fact is that originally, it is the same being. In other words, you truly see yourself as the creator of everything. You can really see it. You can truly feel how everything is created from within you. This gives you practices, and not right away. Over time, you might practice for 10 years and not reach these states, and then something happens, and suddenly it all sweeps you away. You see it all. You open your eyes and think, oh my God, how there is no meaning in anything. Because you see how everything appears, fades away, appears, fades away. That is, it is an infinite number of cartoons, an infinite number of scenarios, an infinite amount of this kind of hustle and bustle, and at the same time, you see yourself, you feel yourself as the original being from which all of this is born. But having experienced this, the practitioner falls out of that state. And in most cases, they fall back into the form in which we are present here. And the most frightening thing is that there is this mistake where you start to position and behave as if you are original, but you are no longer in that state. You have fallen out of it. In other words, you are operating with your memory, thinking that you have been there, but right now you are not in that state. Right now you are a piece of meat that can be crushed, literally in 3 seconds by a passing car. You are no longer your original self. You are once again inside a cartoon. You are once again a material object that is very fragile. You are already a crystallized consciousness that can be easily shattered. In other words, you are no longer that water in a plasma state, which is impossible to do anything with. Instead, you are once again that ice fragment that can simply be broken into pieces. You can break water into pieces. Yes, that's possible. And when the practitioner, having come out of this state, starts to act as if he is a god, that's when he faces very big problems. Because at that moment, he is not a god. At that moment, he is still the same character in the game who practiced, saw something, and became a pivotal character.
And what exactly did these people do? What mistakes?
Those I know. Well, one jumped from the 9th floor. What was going through his mind at that moment, I don't know. But before that, I was talking to him. He was very aggressive, very judgmental. He saw all the flaws, all the mistakes, and he was outraged that we were such incompetent people. All of that, some kind of disgusting things. Here I am, the cause of everything, and you are here. It hasn't even been a month since he took a step into this. I don't know. There were rumors that he was helped to take that step. Those who are apparently tired of constantly hearing this dirt from him. You see, there is such a mantra or chant. The phrase sounds like Har Har Mahadev. If you watch some Indian series about events in ancient India, you will often hear people addressing Shiva as Har Har Mahadev. And the sages would also greet each other with Har Har Mahadev. What does this mean? It means that the original exists in each of us. That is, Shiva is within each of us. However, a person who has experienced this state, I am the original, forgets that the original exists in each of us. He just, I don't know, it's like something falls on him, some sense of self-importance in front of his eyes, like boom, and that's it. And based on this, he starts to act, forgetting that we all are one way or another, Mahadeva, we are all this original being, just in varying degrees of forgetfulness, in varying degrees of limited perception. have, you expanded your perception. Yes, you saw it. Then your perception narrowed, and you only have a memory of it left. Now you are already everything. You are just like all of this in the grand scheme of things. And this is what practitioners stumble over. Not everyone, but I know those who stumble to their demise.
How did you experience it and not stumble?
You know, my intention saved me. A long time ago, I determined why I was doing all of this. That is, a long time ago, I sat down with my car and had an honest conversation. And after that conversation, my intention became free. That is, I understood this word. I felt it. That is, I want freedom. When you want freedom, you do not interfere with other people living. You focus on yourself. That is, I want freedom. And let me go tell you how to live properly, but that's a bit illogical. I want freedom, so I do everything to achieve it. Yes, someone will come up and say, listen, I like how you have everything set up here. Tell me about it. I will share and we will go together, but dragging someone along is pointless. That would just hold me back. And so, when I finally experienced that state, I spent a week after that event just gathering myself, in a little pile, because it's one thing to say that everything is meaningless, and another thing to see that your entire long journey has no meaning at all. All your sketches, when you were suffocating yourself in various ways, all your practices, it was all a performance, it was all cartoons, because the essence lies deep within, it is actually beyond what we perceive throughout our lives. And so, when you jump back up from this depth, the first thing is, and what now? What comes next? But this state, I want to free myself from all of this. I want to consciously exit from here, to leave on my own, through my own actions, not just to collapse and disconnect, to evaporate, but to actually step out myself, to be reborn into some subsequent states. This is how a person emerges, for example, from another person, right? That is, a small child comes out of a woman. They are moving from one world to another, but they do not die at that moment. No, everyone says he was born. The same goes for us. We can be reborn from here to a higher state if we don't give up here. And this has become my goal, to get out of here. And it saved me because I set myself such an extreme goal as complete freedom. This, is called the state of a rishi, that is eternal. Rishi translates to eternal. And there are not many such beings. They exist and they share their knowledge. And so I said, I want to be like that. And because I said this a long time ago, because I sincerely desire it, because my heart ignites from this path, I was saved from interfering with other people's lives. I was saved from judging other people, from poking at everyone with a stick, because that is incompatible with my intention. I just kept moving forward. I realized that yes, okay, it all makes no sense. But on the other hand, everything I went through allowed me to see this, right? It did. So there is already some vague sense to it. And to consciously step out of all this, to take myself entirely along with the matter, along with my personality, along with my memory, to take myself away from here. This became for me that saving stick that rescued me from endless importance, endless pathos, endless everything. Why? Because you see, when you surpass anyone you encounter, it is very easy to fall into pathos. You look at him, and I am currently exerting my energy to compress him completely. And when you look at where you are and where the exit is, there's no time for pathos. It's like, damn, I can't keep up because time is ticking, the years are passing, and the exit is still somewhere over there. And you no longer have any motivation to look at other people and to surpass or elevate yourself in their eyes. There is only the motivation to just drag yourself towards this exit. Yes, there are people who come and say, listen, I like where you're going. Let's go together. We can make it through as a duo, trio, or even a group of 10. Someone says, no, I'm something. I think I'll just show off and enjoy myself. Well, go ahead and show off and enjoy. But I'm going there. And this is what saved me. This is my answer to the question of how I managed.
And what would you recommend for other people who may not have such a goal of attaining freedom?
Do not forget this expression, Hafar Mahadip. Each of us is Mahadip. And still, see in other people that very spark of the original, which was also in you. But in you it flared up brighter, while in them it has not yet ignited. Do not forget about that.
So tell me, what is your plan for attaining this freedom?
The plan is very simple. And the knowledge I gained within my tradition is my plan. This is a consistent execution of practices that I, by the way, am fully publishing and making available. And the last thing to do is to implement a practice called Sri Yandra. The body of light is a process where you transform your physical body into an energetic body. That is, you completely transform into energy, but within this energy, there must be a form. Energy itself is like this little cloud of consciousness. It, You see, how can I explain to you what will happen to a drop that falls into the ocean? You won't find her there anymore. That's it. She will disperse. And this drop that falls into the ocean must have some form, some structure to continue moving there without losing its individuality, like a drop of fat. A drop of fat. There, that's a good comparison. The fat will be in the water. It will move freely in it. It will float on it, not sink, but at the same time, it will not disappear within it. And there are practices called, as Sri Yantra said, this is a lifelong practice. That is, I underwent initiation more than 10 years ago, and I am still doing. In all the time that I have taught and demonstrated, fewer than 10 people have been able to reach this practice. Mainly people there took practical energy courses. They took a special course, the same one for shedding the cocoon, and there was a fire table. This was generally enough for them. They were going to enjoy themselves. They didn't need anything else. But there were those who said, listen, what comes next? Well, we understand all this. Yes, we've already figured out how to use it all. But it is obvious that everything is transient. It is clear that one cannot enjoy life forever. What comes next? I say, what comes next is this. But this is for a lifetime. This is no longer the practice where I pass it on and you go off to be fulfilled.
How do you feel about your progress towards your goal?
There is simply not enough time. There is very, very little time. And the chances of not making it are very high. But on the contrary, this motivates me even more, allowing me to move forward even stronger. Although, if I sincerely talk to myself, if I treat myself honestly, I understand that, it's quite possible to not keep up. It's quite possible, because once again, I have said many times that if you lose your physicality, it's the end.
What about rebirth?
And reincarnations go in the same direction, where you first have to die, and then you will have paradise, or you have to die first, and then there you will have, 100 virgins. Everything that is explained as first die and then everything will be fine is ridiculous. No reincarnations. Moreover, the people who talk about reincarnations, what's most interesting is that they also say that there is no time. If there is no time, what reincarnations are you talking about? This doesn't correlate at all. There is no time, I agree, yes. The reason we perceive this scenario here is that we possess a structure called physics. The structure called consciousness has no time. You can touch any part of your life path, but your physics cannot do that. It is rigidly inscribed. It is like the head of a phonograph that moves along the track.
Tell me, what specific practices are you currently doing to move towards your goal? How much time does it take for you?
I do it on all levels. I do it. When I walk with meditation, I do it. When I read a mantra, I do it. When I live my everyday life, because it all grows within me on all levels. This is not the kind of practice where I just say, that's it, everyone is silent, everyone has shut up, now I'm going to become enlightened. That's it, I've become enlightened, now I'll go degrade him. No. By entering this practice, you allow it to grow on all levels. And even when I go to the store and buy some food for myself, for example, I still recognize the process that is called Sri Yantra.
How do you understand progress in this practice?
I don't understand, I see him.
How do you see him? What exactly do you see?
Phew. Well, then I need to talk directly about this practice itself. Look, yantra is a certain structure consisting of 64 forms of Shakti. These shafts are quite real. They are fully perceivable. They are very tangible. And so, depending on how much these energies have connected with me, how loyal are they to me? How much have I been able to let them into myself? How strong is my intention? Because if I don't have a strong intention, they cannot be loyal to me in any way. And what do I have to gain from that? There is no one to dance with if the intention is weak. If your intention is strong, there is someone to dance with. There is something to spin around. And all of this is visible, meaning you are aware of it all. You see it all in the process, for example, during meditation, when your consciousness goes deep away. Everything is perceived as the material world. But when consciousness returns to the senses of my physical body, naturally I do not see this. But I see this indirectly now. That is, how I manifest, how people relate to me, how I am perceived from the outside, how easily I can achieve my goals, and how easily I can navigate through this space. Ultimately, it is about how I handle the problems I encounter, whether they concern me or not. Here, for example, is the same volcano again. It seems to be somewhere here in the field, but it doesn't affect me. Or there might be some situation with falling icicles. It seems that, yes, I have seen icicles fall, but they didn't fall on me. All of this somehow correlates with these processes that are called Sri Yantram. But this is a very deep topic, and a couple of times in my life, I tried to show these processes to a person who had not taken any special courses. Well, there he is, feeling something with the tips of his fingers, sensing the gates from the center, and he's like, okay, I'll show you. He was a very determined person. I start showing him, and after 15 minutes, he falls asleep. And the practice lasts for 9 days, but he falls asleep every 15 minutes. I am completely exhausted. In the end, I somehow managed to cram this knowledge into him, crammed these settings into him, and said that if I had to work with a person in such a state again, it would be very difficult for me. But there are people who have mastered practical energy work. Why practical energy work? Because I have engaged in this process, I don't know other paths. Here, I have mastered practical energy work, learned to shed the cocoon, and mastered the fire column. They have the resources. They are very active, they are very expressive. And when you show such a person, they can endure about an hour to an hour and a half of practice. He can handle it. Yes, he gets tired. And yes, he feels a bit like he has been translating from Chinese to Japanese without knowing either language. It's a heavy load, but he manages to bear it. If a person is not prepared, they won't be able to withstand it.
What is the benefit of this practice? In the sense that if it really exerts a load, there should be some kind of compensation in the form of a certain state, well-being, or how you feel.
Well, look, you go to the gym and put your muscles under strain. What happens next? You get tired.
Then for 3 days you have an elevated level of testosterone.
Here, that is, you enter a state where you are more active, more mobile. That is, you feel up to 200%, even though you just went through a load, and here it's the same. The more you immerse yourself in this practice, the more possibilities you have. You have a green light everywhere. And you start to think not about how to achieve something, but about what else you could achieve here, because everything becomes so simple, so easy, that, wait, let me come up with something else for myself. Oh, this is what they will do. And in a week, you sit again and think, okay, what else can I come up with because it's already done? In other words, this gives power. It gives everything. It provides resources. It offers opportunities. It grants power. It gives the loyalty of the world. It manifests intention. It gives will. It brings forth everything. All facets, all aspects of you as an original being begin to manifest here and now. But this is practice. Nothing will change just because I talked about it. And it's not so easy to jump into this practice.
Tell me, how can one start practicing your techniques at all?
From the course of practical energy. At first, a person studies themselves and their energy. They learn the basics of extrasensory abilities. What are extrasensory abilities? It is the ability to feel energy. In other words, it is everything you feel beyond your physical senses without the ability of your sensory organs to perceive it. In other words, what you feel with your physical senses is not extrasensory, it is physical. Everything you feel without using your senses is already extrasensory. At first, a person learns this. Then they learn to move in their everyday life in such a way as to avoid committing suicide. A person engages in self-destructive behavior a lot, and unconsciously, they are not even aware of it. Here, they begin to realize it because they develop another sense, like a radar. He then begins to restructure his life because he sees that he is being killed, and on the contrary, he sees that he is being revealed. He restructures his life in such a way that he is essentially revealed permanently. He opens up, his abilities grow, his energy manifests, he encounters a certain block that is a kind of shell. He begins to feel it and he says, wait a minute, what should I do with this? I say, we create a special course for this. He breaks this shell, which is called a cocoon. Many attribute all sorts of qualities to it and cling to it as if it were a life buoy. But if you can't swim, you'll cling to the life ring. If you can swim, then you swim to where you need to go. And that ring isn't really necessary for you. The same is true here. For a person who has cultivated themselves in all of this, it has become an obstacle. He wants to expand even more. He wants to expand by 1 meter, 2 meters, 3, upwards, downwards to burn. The special course has shed the cocoon. He exhaled, taking a deep breath. The energy within him intensified even more. Then, in my system, which I underwent training in, a transformation into a fiery column occurs. When all your energy entirely transforms from some fragmented component into a certain holistic component. This is also a very big topic for discussion, but it is so, and it is when a person masters the second special course that they have everything needed to allow the process called Shriyantra into their consciousness. And what this is, I can tell you. I have said it before, and I still say that I have not yet seen a single person on the internet who has explained it the way I know it, the way I learned it in my time. In other words, this information does not exist. And praying to this picture. This is not about the Shvyantras. Yes, this picture is a yantra, but it is not a practice. If you pray to it, If you have covered your entire house with these yantras, that is something entirely different.
Do you want to unlock your inner strength and learn to manage energy? The course, Power of Consciousness 1. Practical energy will provide you with tools to improve health, develop intuition, and gain a deeper understanding of the world. Join and start changing your life right now. Link in the description.